Shri M, and a very warm welcome to you. It's an absolute honor to have you with us, though virtually. Sir, heartfelt gratitude to you for accepting the request to address the participants of 100 Day Challenge, a journey that hundreds of us took together for a better health.
Shall we start?
Yeah. Sadhana Pranam Shri M, and a very warm welcome to you. It's an absolute honor to have you with us, though virtually.
Why is it repeating?
I think the YouTube volume was it. So my yeah.
I heard it again like an echo. Oh, okay.
Friends, good evening and welcome to this much awaited interaction. As you are aware, we ended yesterday the 100 Day Challenge. It was a very humbling and satisfying experience to organize it. It all started with a simple tweet and 580 of you joined in to get into your fittest shape and end year 2021 in your fittest best. Before I hand over the proceedings to Sangeet to introduce Shri M, just some statistics from the event. 330 amounts for this 580 have been regularly uploading their data. We covered over 98,000 kilometers in these 100 days and over 350,000 hours of workouts logged. Success story of many transformations are all over Twitter, and you just have come across many of them, I'm sure. We'll do the prize giving and felicitation program on the 17th of July on Zoom, and please do join in to congratulate and appreciate everyone. With this introduction, I'd like to hand over to Sangeet to carry on the program.
Thank you, Sandeep. Namaskar, everyone. Shri M, Sadar Pranam to you, and a very, very warm welcome.
Thank you.
Friends, many of you know, Shri M is one of the most inspiring thought leaders of India today. His deeply insightful take on life and simple tips on mind and body well-being are widely acclaimed world over. Born into an affluent Muslim family in Kerala, his transformational journey from a young boy to a living yogi is a fascinating story symbolized by single-minded discipline and dedication. His memoir, Apprentice to a Himalayan Master, a Yogi's Autobiography, published in 2011, became an instant bestseller. Followed by the sequel, The Journey Continues. He has authored various other books on philosophy, Upanishad, yoga, and Indian mysticism. His latest book, Yoga Also for the Godless, is a step-by-step guide to the theory and practice of yoga for those who seek to know it better, and also for the young and the millennial. Over the years, his mission as a spiritual guide, social reformer, and educationist have given rise to many initiatives in the area of education, community health, environment, and the oneness of humanity under the Satsang Foundation. The foundation advocates that humanity is one, transcending religious, racial, geographical, cultural, and ideological differences. To spread the message of peace and harmony, Shri M led the Walk of Hope in 2015-16 from Kanyakumari to Kashmir, spanning 15 months and 7,500 kilometers across 11 states of India. In 2020, Shri M was conferred into the Padma Bhushan, one of India's highest civilian awards for the distinguished service of high order in the field of spirituality. I now invite Shri M to enlighten us on yoga beyond asanas. Time permitting, we will also take questions from the audience, which you may share in the chat box or in the YouTube comment box.
So, thank you very much. Thank you, Sandeep.
Shri M, so here, so this whole journey of 100-day fitness that Sandeep and many of his followers and friends took up, it's been a lot about physical fitness, which also results into mental fitness. So, would like to get your thoughts on what is more important, healthy body or healthy mind?
Well, since I am in the discipline called yoga for so many years, from the age of 10 till now, 72, I think it's very difficult to have a healthy mind without a healthy body. However, both are interdependent. It's not as if one can run without the other. So this is the importance of yoga, that yoga has to be understood as not only physical discipline meant for physical well-being, but also as contributing to mind, the well-being of the mind. Some years ago, till then it was not there, the WHO came out with this statement that good health means also mind health. You may have a very good physical body, you may be free of all many diseases, known diseases, and yet if your mind is not healthy, then life is not worth carrying on with. I mean, it's terrible. I know people who are physically very healthy, but who cannot live without worrying about things, who are so kind of stressed up and, what would I say, angry. Now, that's not life, which means one part is okay, but the other part is not. What I have noticed that when such things happen with the mind, it reflects also in the body. It's also the other way around. So we should keep this in mind when we think of fitness. And fitness is so, so essential for us in this life. We have just passed through a difficult phase. We are still passing through. Only recently people pull their masks out, at least when you're in a private place. In this, I have seen, as we passed through this terrible pandemic, so many people used to call me, so many online talks were arranged, because what I found was fear. Now, fear, while fear is genuine, and fear is also a reaction built up by the limbic system in the brain when you come in face to face with danger. But this fear was more to do with the mind, with the mental fear, because you see people dying here everywhere before you, and you get this. So you have a little bit of infection or whatever, and then it could even be influenza. But then you see this happening and you know that there is a dangerous virus around, there is fear. Now, when fear comes, according to yogic science, fear induces a state of mind, a state of, it is reflected in the physical body as reducing your immunity. When there is fear, your immunity becomes lower and lower and lower. If you had handled it without that fear, saying that, I don't know, let me find out, kind of, or there are many techniques in yoga by which you can keep your mind at rest, then perhaps your mind would have much more strength to bring about immunity in the system. So yoga is also an immunity booster. When you're down and out, sometimes doctors say, go do some exercise for some time. So when you do some exercise, what happens? The hormones necessary to get your mind and body in action, they get pumped into the system. Oh, let me explain this. Some people, when we sit down and meditate, and we say, I had a wonderful meditation, the feeling of goodness, the feeling of wellness happens. If you ask a biologist who's really studying the subject, or an endocrinologist, he would tell you, or she would tell you, that what has just happened is that a certain amount of melatonin, a certain amount of what we call the goodness factor, the hormones, have been like dopamine, serotonin. These are the wellness factors. They are produced by the pituitary inside your brain. No wonder the yogis consider the Sahasrara as the most important part of the body. Now, from there, it through the ductless glands, it comes into the bloodstream. When it comes into the bloodstream, what you feel is calmness, quietness, oh, wellness, I'm so blissful. So you see the chemical reaction here? In the same way. Now, yoga is a science which has perfected the science and art of how to induce these things to happen voluntarily. Well, it generally happens involuntarily. If I may say, like, let's say an emotion like anger. Just today, somebody came all the way from Gujarat to see me after a long time. He said, everything is fine, but please help me get out of my anger. It's creating such a mess. So, anger, in Karnataka, we have this uh, Basaveshwara started an order called the Lingayats. Now, the Basaveshwara was a great philosopher, and he wrote a lot of beautiful things in the form of vachanas. They're called vachanas, Basava's vachanas. In one of them, I was reading the other day, he says, when you get angry, my dear, you're not doing anything to the person you're angry with. You're burning your own house. Nothing happens to that guy. Something happens to you. You're burning down your own house. So, and then you say, okay, anger, so it's an emotion. So how do I control it? Well, I'm just discussing an example. Because body-mind relationship, how do I deal with this anger? First, I should understand and conclude myself that anger does no good to me. Because there has to be incentive to get rid of anger. If I say anger is fine and good, then there's no point. We don't need to get rid of. Suppose I say, no, anger is not required. I can live without anger. Well, I can pretend to be angry sometimes, but I can live without anger. Anger does no good to me. It increases my heartbeat. It finally ends in blood pressure. When I understand this, I say, now how do I get out of it? The understanding itself is the beginning of getting out of it first. This understanding. Okay, but is there a physical technique? Yes, there is. So this is the importance of yoga. This is why I said yoga not only deals with physical body and the muscles and the bones and the joints, it also deals with your endocrine system. This is the difference between yoga and any other physical exercise. So what does it do? There is a beautiful asana called the Matsyasana. I don't know if you have seen Matsyasana. You sit in Padmasana, you know, the famous lotus posture of Buddha. You know, in the West, people say Buddha posture. Okay, Buddha posture. And then you slowly let your body go back and rest on the ground. So you're lying down with your face up in Padmasana. Also, you're holding the toes with your hands, pulling them tight and raising your head up. Now, this is Padmasana. Now, no, this is Matsyasana. Now you're in. When you do that, what happens? When you're angry, what happens chemically? Adrenaline is pumped into the system. There's a little bit of adrenaline is good, but too much adrenaline is pumped into the system. This way you're angry, your heart is beating hard and you're getting red in the face. Now, if you continue to do Matsyasana every day for a long time, you will see that your anger is reduced. Of course, you have the intention to reduce first, of course. How is it reduced? Because Matsyasana massages the adrenal glands. When you do Matsyasana, there's pressure here. The muscles push the adrenal gland. When you wake up, when you get up, then it's back to the relaxed posture. This movement helps to bring about some control over anger. All I'm trying to say is how emotions, body, mind, they are interlinked, intricately interlinked. And one is good, the other is good generally.
Great. That's really interesting to hear. So there are people who are who resist exercising, any form of exercising, but not just yoga, even walking, lightest of exercise. Are there practices in yoga that one can do for at least mental health, if they are, or maybe for some physical ailment, they are not able to work out for a while or move? How do we help them at least in mental fitness through yoga?
See, it's like this. People resist exercise. I would suggest that they should be made to understand that exercise is good if they're healthy. One part of the story. If they don't want to do asanas, they can walk, do some exercise. There's one part. Now, if they're really like confined to a wheelchair, for instance, or they're so sick that they can't get up and do any exercise, there are mind exercises which can be done, which may be useful. And the mind exercise, one of the things you can do is pranayam. Even in a wheelchair, you can do pranayam. Even if you're lying down, you can do pranayam. And it may even help you to restore the body functions gradually. This is also possible. I'll give you one example. I can't give you the entire thing. It is a big scope, but just a simple technique. I'm lying down. I can't move. Mind is very active. What do I do? I can't get up because both legs are fractured, or I can't get up because this much is paralyzed. But in my mind, I can still, unless this part is, the lungs is still not, generally that happens only in the last stages. But so what do you do? When you breathe in and breathe out at your own pace, no need to change anything. I'm telling for a special circumstance, not the regular pranayama. Watch your breath. Normally, we never give attention to our breath. Our breath is such an important nourishment. You can live without food for some time. You can live without water also for some time. Half a minute beyond, you cannot live without breathing. It's such an important nourishment because that's the one that fills your body with oxygen. And without oxygen, even the brain cannot work, without sufficient oxygen. So for a change, I'm saying, give attention to your breath. Say, let me watch this interesting thing going on. Think this way. Don't think you're doing a therapy. See, let me see how my breath functions. In fact, this is similar to Vipassana. Vipassana simply means awareness. It starts with awareness of the breath, then it becomes awareness of other movements inside. So, close your eyes, and as you breathe, give complete attention to your breath. You're breathing in, you're breathing out, you're breathing in. As you give complete attention to it for 5 or 10 minutes, the first thing that will happen is you'll feel that your whole body is relaxed. Okay. This stage is a state, the relaxation, when it happens, this is the state when you're in a state of, in scientific terms, we can call it a kind of samadhi, but in scientific terms, a deep state of self-hypnosis. Now, in this deep state of self-hypnosis, if you keep affirming to yourself that my body is healing, that maybe one day I will be able to move my legs, or imagine in your mind, even if you're physically not moving, that you're moving. Your eyes are closed. You're moving your hands. Visualize this whole thing as you did before you went into that state. Do this for 10 minutes. Don't overdo it. Do it for 10 minutes. Then just relax and watch your breath again. And if you're feeling sleepy, fall into sleep or continue with whatever you were doing. This is one of the very good exercises. As you said, I can't move. I'm in a wheelchair. Now, however, if you're fully healthy and your body is able to move and you still don't want to exercise, then I think the best thing is to tell somebody to get out and exercise, because it's a wonderful thing to do. The moment you do 10-15 minutes of exercise, physical exercise, the wellness hormones begin functioning in the body. And the mind is affected by it, and you feel good.
And one thing that I have personally noticed that you work out, you had a great exercise, whether it's yoga or any form of exercise, and you had a long day, you're tired.
Mm-hmm.
You feel you're going to really fall asleep well because
Mm-hmm.
you're physically tired.
Mm-hmm.
That doesn't necessarily result in quality sleep
Okay.
or peaceful sleep. There is some amount of restlessness. Uh, is there something you would recommend for like a practice one can do before bedtime or before falling asleep for calming the mind?
Mm-hmm.
That's something I think a lot of us in this generation or younger do go through this challenge of falling asleep. Well,
Yeah, it's like this. Generally, if you're very tired or you did a lot of work and you're tired, you fall asleep, generally, especially if you're physically tired, not mind work, physically tired. You see, the laborers, the farmers who work in the fields, in all their lives, they don't have a single sleeping tablet because they're tired and they fall asleep. Now, most of us are chair workers. We sit in the chair. I call them chair workers. We, some of us even like to march while sitting down. We don't want to march. We want to march only in our brains. For such people, even deep sleep, because the body is not tired, um, becomes a little difficult because it's on the surface. In sleep, when you fall asleep first, there is a moment of silence, and then it becomes what you call REM sleep, and the next stage, which is rapid eye movement sleep. Your eyes are closed, but they are moving inside. Why are they moving? Because you're seeing dreams. And then after that comes the somnambulistic sleep, which is when there are no dreams. So from Jagrata, according to Vedantic terminology, you go into Swapnavastha first. And from Swapnavastha, you go into Shushupti, which is deep sleep. Now, if sometimes the body is, you're worried or there are so many things racking your brain, you might fall asleep, but as you said, that sleep doesn't give you relaxation much. You wake up still tired. So you have to free the mind from that. So how do we do it? Now, in yoga, there is something called Yoga Nidra. Now, if you practice Yoga Nidra, and then from Yoga Nidra, if you slowly go into Shushupti, deep sleep, that sleep would be really, really, even Yoga Nidra, half an hour of Yoga Nidra, conscious Yoga Nidra, would be equivalent to an hour's deep sleep. I mean, which means you're not become unconscious, but you're on the borderline between conscious and unconscious, somewhere there. It's a stage like when you wake up in the morning, suppose you had a really good deep sleep. It was so blissful, that deep sleep, that you don't want to wake up. You might put on your alarm, but it can ring 5 times. You still want to switch it off and go back to sleep. You know why? Because the bliss is so good. I don't want to wake up. The border. So Yoga Nidra is something like that. It's between waking up and deep sleep. There is no unconsciousness out there. You're conscious, but you're completely resting. It's, as I said, a form of self-hypnosis. Let's put it that way. So how do we do Yoga Nidra? Hypnosis is not a bad word, please. In the West, now scientists are using hypnosis for extracting teeth also, if you know how to do it. Now this is self. So I don't advise anybody to go to a hypnotist unless you trust that guy, because he might get you to do things which you don't want to do. But self-hypnosis is in your control, so you don't have to worry about it. So Yoga Nidra is you lie down. I'm going to describe a little bit about Yoga Nidra, how to do it. There's no point in discussing theory. Okay, I'm lying in a comfortable bed. I shut the door so that nobody comes and disturbs me. I lie down. Light should be very bright falling on you. Then it's not easy to do Yoga Nidra. Should be kind of normal daylight is okay, but not some searchlight kind of thing falling on. Keep a pillow if you like. If you want to keep a pillow, keep a thin pillow. Don't keep a very fat pillow. People also do without a pillow. But then after that, if your intention is to sleep, better to start with the pillow itself, because you don't need to move after that. So have a not very thin pillow, comfort level. Examine your comfort level so you can lie down straight without a pain in the neck. Important. Okay. Now close your eyes and start the thing I described to you first, which is watching your breath. Breathe in deeply, consciously, and breathe out deeply, consciously. Continue this for a while till everything settles down. Okay. Next, start with your body with each local area. First, start with your toes, then go to your feet, then come to the joints, then go to the thighs, then go to the knees, then go to the thighs. So I'll explain how you do this. You have done some deep breathing. Let go of the breath. Let it become normal. Contract or give little pressure on your toes. You know how, like, tighten them up a bit towards the bottom, let's say. Hold it in that tightened, stretched position for some time. Then let go. Then go to the next part. Tighten it. Tense. Relax. The whole of yoga works on this, tensing and relaxing. Tense. Relax. Then go to the knees. Tense your knees, then relax them. Keep going like that. You don't have to go back there. Step by step, keep going, tensing each part of your body and then relaxing it. Keep going like that, right up to the neck. Tense your neck. Relax. Go up your face. Tense it. Relax. Do this up to your head. Stop. Go back to your watching your breath. By the time you reach here, most probably you will be in a semi-waking state. You will not be in it will be nice and relaxed. Sometimes you hear even small sounds around you because the ears are sensitive and the body and mind are at rest. Lie like that as long as you feel. Now, if it is the night time and you want to go naturally from Yoga Nidra into Shushupti, into deep sleep, all you have to do is gently turn to any one side and sleep. This way, your sleep will be deeper than it normally is. And it would be generally an undisturbed sleep. And if it is an undisturbed sleep, 5 hours of that sleep is equivalent to 8 hours of normal disturbed sleep.
It's quality of sleep, not the quantity of.
It's not the quantity, it's the quality that is required. If you do perfect Yoga Nidra, in the midst of all your activity, you can take half an hour of Yoga Nidra and be fine for another 5-6 hours. But of course, you need a place to lie down. Well, you can do it in a bus or an aeroplane, of course. Not fully lying down, but just this can be done. I do that very often because I travel. When I travel and all that, sometimes time changes, time zone. So you just relax. What people do usually, in the aircraft, I've seen this. To relax, they have an alcoholic drink. Does alcohol really relax you? Temporarily. And then by the time they're getting down, they're like owls, cross-eyed. They can't even walk out. So what kind of relaxation did you have? Because it's freely served. Anything comes free.
Many of the listeners are curious to know how to uh, control anxiety, fear. You spoke about anger. You spoke about calm, calm, calming yourself before sleep. But in moments of anxiety, and we've all gone through a very difficult phase in last 1.5 years. How can yoga help them in moments of anxiety and fear?
You have to tell you this. Suddenly, one fine day, if one wants to control anxiety, there are no such instant techniques available. And I've been anxious all my life, and then one day suddenly the situation is so bad, I have to. It's not easy to do that. There are no such shortcut techniques. In fact, I tell people if there are any shortcuts, run away. Don't waste time and money. Okay. Because nowadays it's all a shortcut world. Everything has to be shortcut package deals. In the end, you will find you have spent your money and you got nothing. So, what I suggest is the attitude that one should not get anxious because anxiety does not help should be part of your life. If it's part of your life, then in a situation you can use it. It would be useful to you. So, how do I not get it? First of all, I should understand, you and I, anybody, even yogi or non-yogi, should understand the fact that life is not always smooth. There are so many situations that can come about in life. It need not be the mind, it can be physical. I'm sitting watching under a tree. It's so beautiful. Suddenly clouds come. I say, oh, how beautiful clouds. Then comes the thunder, which burns down a tree head right near me. I'm anxious now. I'm going to die. Right? So this world is like that. I'm okay. Suddenly I get some kind of an ailment which doctor says, oh, there is no cure for this. What happens? I'm anxious. And when I'm anxious, what happens? The immunity which should have helped me to get out of my situation is also lost. So we have to think about it as a life practice, not being anxious. Look, whatever you do take your safety precautions. But if something happens in spite of that, nobody has any control over it. The problem is, I think there's someone who has some control. It doesn't happen. Some things we have no, like, we are 3 million, result of 3 million years of genetic evolution. Do we have any control over that? No. So each personality is different because this 3 million years of genetic innovation creates different personalities. Although there are some common factors, but we are different. You can do nothing about that. So then what happens when you can't, you have to accept. I'm not saying you shouldn't work, try to get out of it, but in your mind you should know, I'll try my best, but I can't say that in the end it's going to work. So let me be at peace with myself. Be quiet. Because if I'm at peace, I have more potential. If I'm not anxious, I get more potential in my mind to tackle the problem at hand, on hand. If I'm anxious, I cannot tackle it. So this has to be theoretically understood first. It's only when you theoretically understand this that any technique is going to work. Otherwise, no technique is going to work. Now, I'm going for an interview. I'm very anxious, suppose. I don't know what to do. Now, sit down for 2 minutes. Don't think about the interview. Sit down for 2 minutes. Say to yourself, look, I'm going for an interview. There are many interviews. I may be okay, I may not be okay. But if I'm anxious, I'm certainly going to do wrong. Now that puts it into your brain, that the brain then starts working out ways and means to prevent you from becoming anxious. Because the brain wants success. If you said convinced, which is a fact, that if I'm anxious, I'm not going to do well, the brain begins to work out ways and means to not make you anxious. Okay, then if you add a help to it, a booster. What is the booster? Go and sit on some bench on the side, close your eyes. Again, this is very important. Watch your breath. Watch your breath. Just forget about the interview. Interview is going to come anyway. You have enough time to go sit down and say, calm down, man. You're not going to get anxious. If you're anxious, you're not going to do, you go there and stand before the man who's asking questions. You get confused. I know a person who went to a Navy interview, believe me, and could not answer a simple question because he was so anxious and so confused and he was thinking of the Navy all the time. They asked him what kind of animals eat grass. He didn't know. I mean, such a simple question. What kind of animals eat grass? Goats, cows. The guy was so anxious, he was thinking of only admirals. So he was wondering what kind of admirals eat grass. You get what I'm trying to say? So then finally he figured out. So they said, why didn't you answer this? It's such a simple question. He said, no, sir, I was thinking of admirals eating grass. Of course, he couldn't get the job. That's a different thing. They took it badly. Anyway, so anxiety. So first get this into your mind. Hypnotize yourself to think that anxiety is not good for us. That anxiety is not going to bring any success. Working hard to get somewhere is not anxiety. It's work. Also distinguish between hard work and anxiety. In fact, if you are less anxious, you can work harder. So having got all these ideas into your mind, at the instant when you feel that something is going to trigger anxiety, there are methods by which you can sit down, meditate, watch your breath, chant Om, and so on and go. This can be done. I've noticed this when this pandemic was on, people were anxious not because of a job or an interview, because everybody was dying around and there was so much anxiety and fear inside. What happens is then the immunity gets lowered in the system. There's more chance and likelihood of getting infected. And even if you're infected, there is less chance that the infection would be mild. It can become worse because your immunity boosters are not working anymore because of the fear of seeing others dying. There is no oxygen. In fact, people who probably, some of them at least, who suffered because it was not so much because there was no oxygen, it was about the fear that they won't get oxygen. And we can't breathe. And a person who has done pranayama all his life, at least for 5-6 years, even in the most difficult circumstances, it is possible for them to breathe properly. I'm telling you this because it's my experience. I didn't get this COVID thing, thank God, but I had when we went to Kailash. Now, when you go beyond a certain point, the oxygen level becomes less. When you go to Dolmola Pass, is 22,000 feet above sea level. Slowly the oxygen level begins to go down. Then you need oxygen cylinders. Portable cylinders are there, so people put it on. I've been practicing Kriya from the age of 19 till now. Kriya Yoga, one of the methods. Believe me, I did not need an oxygen help till I went up and came down. Idea is to slow your breath and take sufficient oxygen necessary. That's all. Don't overbreathe. So, these are some of the aspects we are touching upon. I'm not giving you an entire picture what we can do in an hour's time.
So here's an question especially from Neha from Calcutta. Uh, she said, how can yoga help get over our desires? Is the affirmation in that state help us get over our desires and emotions?
This is opposite. Many people ask me the question, how can we use yoga to fulfill our desires? this this lady, I think, has a girl or whoever has studied a lot of Vedanta and a lot of texts on the Indian system of philosophy. So she is beginning to understand, at least, Neha, that these desires in the end are of no use because we are going to die finally. So what will we do with it? And every desire has its own problems also coming along. And she finds that desire is troubling her. So she wants to be free of desire. Let me tell you first, that is not so easy to do that. However, the mind cannot stay without a desire. Fact. It's the it is the attribute of the mind to desire, because the mind does not like to be limited. It likes to grow. The ancient Vedic sloka, Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnat Purnamaduchyate, the source is Purna. But here I feel I'm not Purna. Even though the Upanishad says Purnam Idam, you're also complete. But I don't know that. So I'm trying to complete myself. This is life. The whole of evolution is continuity, wanting to continue, wanting to fulfill, because I find that I am not full. I want to fill myself. This is life. And it's always accompanied by desire to do that. It's quite normal. However, some people find that you have one desire, then it goes, then another comes. It's endless. So is there some way to come out of it? The problem is, as long as there is the mind, there will be desire. It is the nature of the mind to have desire. So how do we do that? Replace the small desires with a big desire. What is that? To find the truth. Don't say that's not a desire. That's also a desire. In fact, the sannyasin who gives up everything to find moksha has a greater desire, because he doesn't care for the trinkets. He's looking for the treasure, the gold. So it's not as if you're desireless. There is desire, but the desire is shifted from ordinary things to extraordinary things, to greater things. When that desire becomes strong, then these desires fall off. You're not interested anymore. That's the only way. Not touching that to say that I will be free of desires does not work. I can try, but one desire goes and I get another desire coming. Now, I'm a married man myself. There are people who think that they will be happy and fulfilled and all desires will vanish if I get married. And do you think this is true? More desires come. And there are people who feel that I'm married, if I take sannyas, all desires will end. No, I know people who have taken sannyas and are tortured by desire when they can't go back. So this desire is a common factor. So to Neha, I would say, keep replacing your little desires with the greater desire of wanting to be free, wanting to enjoy greater joys than the little joys that you have here. And slowly you'll find that these desires disappear and you will move towards that. I think that's the intention. And if I may say, Kabir Das said something very interesting, the weaver saint Kabir Das. He said, we seek happiness everywhere, but don't find it. Till, of course, we rest in peace, whatever. But he said it's like the musk deer, kasturi mriga. There's a pouch under its belly where there is kasturi, which is musk. And in one season, it gets activated and there's fragrance in the air, beautiful fragrance. You know what the musk fragrance is like. And the poor deer, not realizing that it's coming from under his belly button, goes looking for it everywhere in the forest, pushes its snoot down thorny bushes, gets bleeding, but doesn't realize that this fragrance I'm searching for is coming from me, myself, from it. So Neha is probably trying to seek that fragrance. It is in you. You don't seek anywhere outside, you're not going to get it. When you understand this, probably the outside desires may become less. But there is still desire, spiritual desire. Please understand. And that will end only when you have fully drunk that.
Thank you, Shri M. Here's a question from Kaushal Dukkar, and I think many of us parents of young children here would have this question. How do I sow seeds of strong mind-body wellness in my child?
Right. Very good question, very important question, because child is the father of man. And finally, it's the youngsters that the future of this country rests in this world, why country? So, yes. Now, here is something I tell, because we also have here, we have a Satsang Vidyalaya. We have a boarding school here, a little away from here, called the People Grow School. We deal with education. So the teachers ask this question, how do we inculcate good qualities in the students, whatever it is, good. What we tell them is, look, children, especially of this generation, are very intelligent. I sometimes think they are brighter than us. Okay. Now, if you tell them, do this, do this, do this, and you don't do it, it's not going to come into their heads. You have to set an example. If you set an example, naturally the children will behave that way. So if you inculcate good habits in you, and the child watches this and says, this is what mama and papa are doing, so it must be good for me. If I do wrong things and then tell them this is how you should be doing, children will accept it and do it because you force them to do it, but in their minds, they rebel. They don't do it. And after a while, when they're independent, they'll drop it totally. Therefore, we lead a life properly and set an example to the youngsters when they see you leading a life and you're leading a happy life and a peaceful life, they will also follow you. I'm not talking about any particular circumstance, in general. That's why, a spiritual teacher, let's come to another kind of education, spirituality. If the person who is teaching is not living the teachings, how would you expect those who are learning to live the teachings? It's very simple. And you can't give an excuse, oh, I am a great man, so I can. It doesn't work. So, in your life, in daily life, inculcate the qualities which you want your children to learn. Inculcate them, not simply talk about it. And then talk about it. Then you will see the children understand and grow up accordingly. Look, if I tell a child, modern world, who is a teenager or about to become a teenager, that in the evening you should sit down and do your homework or do some chanting or something. And if in the other room, I also want to be spiritual and I open the bottle which has spirit, what child is going to understand what I'm doing? You see, they're not idiots, they're fools. They're very intelligent. They'll say, what is this guy trying to tell me? I drink every day and I say drinking is not good. So you can set an example, the young people will pick it up. And don't think that they don't know. I think as each generation passes and new generations come, the genes are making them more intelligent than we are. A child of 5 years, 10 years ago is different from a child of 5 years now. It's changing. The brain is evolving. So we'll also have to go along with that.
So for next question, I'm combining a couple of questions that people have. We will all get back to normal life, hopefully soon. Busier, traveling, finding being busy as an excuse for not working out or not doing yoga. But also we need to protect ourselves from possibly the third wave or any other kind of ailment and things
Absolutely.
come up. So what are some of the basic practices that we must do, should take out time for, to at least few minutes of practice to get into the rhythm and to protect ourselves?
First, let me tell you that this virus, now the wave is down, but don't think it will go. It has not gone. In some form or the other, it's bound to lurk somewhere for some time to come. So physically, we have to be careful first. There is no escape from that. Social distancing, wearing of masks. For 1,000 years, the Jain monks have worn masks. There was no pandemic at that time. So there is no harm. Somebody said nowadays everybody is looking like bank robbers. I said we are looking like Jain monks. Let's look at the brighter side. So, you know what I mean. So, and washing your hands and not trying to. I saw Prince Charles getting out of the palace, seeing everybody and doing this now. Good thing. You don't have to shake hands. Especially don't hug. Could be dangerous. Maybe the clothes have something. Who knows? So maintain a moderate level of social distancing at least. Wear masks and don't go in too much into crowded places. Okay, having said that, physically. Do exercises and techniques by which your immunity is built up. One of them, of course, Sandeep will agree with me, exercise. Very important. Physical exercise is very important. It will make your body fit. It will build your immunity. And therefore, even if a little mild infection goes around, it won't touch you. It will just move away. Right? Then do a bit of pranayama every day, at least for 5 minutes, to keep your lungs. During this pandemic, I thought you will go into the YouTube, you will find how to breathe. We have forgotten to breathe, actually. We do shallow breathing. Learn how to do deep breathing. If you have deep breathing, if you know deep breathing, and if your bronchioles are completely filled with oxygen, there is a very little chance even of an external something invading this. So I thought if you go to the YouTube and check for deep breathing or how to breathe or something like that, go to Shri M and check on YouTube. Sorry, I'm not advertising. Then you'll see that it's a very simple technique. Take a deep breath. As you breathe in, take your hands up. That clears this part of the lungs also. Hold for a while. Push the breath down to the tummy. Then pull the tummy in and take it to the chest. Exhale. Bring your hand down. Now you have the full lungs filled with oxygen. And when you exhale, it's clear. Practice preferably at least for 5 minutes the simple technique. And grow more trees or go at least to parks where there are many trees. Now, because there will be other people also, wear your mask, doesn't matter, but go. And eat simple, good food. Try as much as possible to eat fresh food. When I say fresh food, you know how it is. In the United States, it's usually for 1 week cooking is done because everybody is busy. in the fridge, so you keep heating it every day and that is not good for the body. Have fresh food every day. Well, you can cook in the morning and eat in the evening. That's okay. Don't go too much beyond that. So eat good food. You want to eat good food, I mean nutritious food. Do exercise. Do this pranayam, which I told you, and few other pranayams. Follow all social norms. And above all, make sure that you avoid things like smoking. Smoking makes your lungs weak. And it's then becomes very sensitive to attack from outside. If possible, in the social milieu which we are living in, if possible, avoid alcohol. I'm not a vegan. Drink milk, plenty of milk, no harm. I can't hear you. You've become mute.
Sorry. How to be consistent with yoga, kriya, meditation, and practices that we start with, and sometimes we go on for a few weeks very well, and
then you stop.
Yeah, then something happens, and one after another. The duration.
Look, you are not an exception. Right. Whoever asked this question, it happens to everybody. Those who regularly practice or those who continue to stick to it. See, let me give an example. I'm doing, let's say, some meditative practice like Kriya Yoga. It's nice in the beginning. Then one day I say, today I have too much work, so I will do it tomorrow. Now the second day, the mind becomes lazy. It says, okay, we'll do it another day. So one principle in daily practice is, even though suppose you have some work, you can't do it that time, do it at some other time. The mind will bring out an excuse saying, this is not the time to do it. I should be doing, doesn't matter. If the time changes, do it every day. If you can do that, then your rhythm will be re-established automatically. There is no other shortcut for this. Continuous. Patanjali himself says in the Yoga Shastras, in the Yoga Sutras, Nairantarya Abhyasena, regular practice is essential to have an effect. So regular practice is essential. Say to yourself that there is no excuse. I have to do it. There is nothing. Because it's as important as the food that I eat. Food is important for nourishing my body. Yoga is important for nourishing my mind. Therefore, both are important. Otherwise, it's like starving your body, you're starving your mind. If this becomes clear to the person, then they will not stop doing. Yeah. If you begin to enjoy it, then you will never stop it. The problem is the enjoyment comes only after a certain level of practice. Till then, it's a hard way. You have to do it. And then once you begin to enjoy it, you would say, no, I don't want to miss it.
So I have plenty of questions, but we should respect the time. We are almost at the end of it. My request to all those people whose questions I couldn't ask, you would find most of these answers in his YouTube videos. There are some amazing ones, and almost all the questions that I see here, I know the answers are out there. So since we can only have Shri M live for only this much time, I would request all of them to visit YouTube and find their answers there. Sir, thank you so much
for being
with us.
Thank you, Sandeep. Thank you, Sangeet. And all of you who are here, whom I can see and those who I can't see.
Sir, I have a question if you have 1 minute for it.
We have 1 minute. Yes, of course.
How have you been able to balance being in spiritual path along with, being a householder? Like,
A difficult question. See, you can be spiritual, you can be a householder, but uh, one thing about life, married life, when you begin your married life, begin with the understanding that you may not be always right, that you may be wrong many times, even if you're a yogi. And the other person also may be right at some point at least. Because all married life is a question of, there are no 100% perfect marriages. It's all a question of compromise, give and take. Suppose I am married and I am spiritually inclined and the other partner is not. I say that even in such cases, it is possible to survive, it's possible to carry on, because you should respect the other person's point of view and say, maybe she's right. That's her way of life, but this is my way of life. So then there is no clash. That's the only thing that is required. You can go two ways as long as your minds are together. That you decide, I will live together and lead my life. I can think. I should give freedom to the other person also to think. So when people come to me for advice, they say, we are going to get married. What do you suggest? First point. I say, first point, think when you start your married life, the other person may also be right. You're not always right. If this much is there, if I can be critical of myself, I think spiritual life and material life, there is no problem out there, no dichotomy. But it's a balancing act. It's not as if it is easy for a sannyasin to lead a spiritual life, believe me. Because somebody might have taken sannyas at the spur of the movement, and now you can't go back and say, and then you live in a double world. Inside you are something, outside you are something. That's also not good. So this problem is not only for those who are married, it's also for those who are unmarried. That's all I can say.
thank you, sir. Thank you. We are really obliged, and we had a wonderful learnings today. I'm
Thank
sure
you.
everyone enjoyed it and learned a lot of new things. Thanks again. Thanks everyone who joined in today. And the video will be available in YouTube. You can watch it at any point of time. Thanks, sir, again. Sadhu.